Hi, it's Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live number 77. And how do I stop flipping into falsetto is going to be our topic today. So, hello everybody. This is the pre-show show. We've got about 3 to 4 minutes to just kind of chat and say hi before we get started here. I wanted to say hello to everybody that's joining us today. And hi, Subia. Hey, you're first on the block there. So, thanks for staying up late, Subia, to watch. Um, Want to make sure you can hear me and see me okay. So, let me know for sure that everything is okay. Hey, Bruno Inferno, sound and video all good. Awesome. Thank you. Well, how's everyone doing? We're experiencing a little bit of winter again today. It snowed this morning, and it's springtime in the Rocky Mountains. And oh, I don't know. Right now, our temperature is probably still in the 40s, and it's rather cold outside. Mark Zaya, hi, Mark. The Bridge, Altu, hello. Nice to see you here. Uh, Dana Parker, hi, Dana, from Washington, D.C. Awesome. Eupadios, good to see you. And thank you, Altu. Says he can hear and see. So that's great. Eupadios, thank you for the feedback. So this is a topic that I think everybody will relate to in some form or another. Either it's happened to you, has it? Let me know in the comments. Have you ever been singing along and had your voice crack in the flip or flip in the falsetto? Da, da. So you can go online and find these all over the place on YouTube, and they're actually some of them are really quite scary. You would hate for that to happen to you. Um, Aaron, nice to have you with us from Atlanta, sunny and warm, the Peachtree State. Well, I'm guessing you probably have lots of beautiful blossoms all around right now in Atlanta. Um, F. Pranchas, video and sound aren't working. Sound and video aren't just working, they're excellent. Thank you. I've invested in better software is really what I've done, and so far I've loved it. It's really working better. And Anacum, hi, nice to have you with us today. Aaron says he can't do hi. So when I was a young man, and I would sing in high school, and I did a lot of singing in high school. I was in madrigals for 3 years. We ended up going to Europe. We performed everywhere all the time. I would never sing higher than the E above middle C because if I did, I was afraid that I would flip in the falsetto. And so that's what, or crack or break, some catastrophic moment. It felt that way at least. Does that ever happen to you guys? I'd love to hear if it has. Ladies, I don't know if it's as scary for you as it is for us guys, but I do think it can be. And if anything, it's like a sudden change in the quality of the tone. It's, from very strong to very light and airy, and that can be kind of embarrassing too. So we're going to talk more about that. Hi, everybody. It's the top of the hour. This is Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live, number 77. How do I stop flipping into falsetto is our topic today. And we're going to cover a bunch of different things about that event that occurs in our voices. So, has it happened to you? Have you ever been singing along and all of a sudden had a crack or a break? I've seen it. I've seen it in the most professional places by the best singers, and it happens. It happens for various reasons. What we want to try and do is control that to the extent that we can. Okay, so hi to Ellie. Nice to have you with us today. She said her voice cuts off completely on high notes. Okay. Abby Hips. Finally made it. Hey, Abby, nice to have you with us. It happens to me all the time, and it's so frustrating. It is frustrating. So let's talk more about that today. This might be of help to you. I'm moving away from the topic. Subia. Shame on you, Subia. I wanted to ask about lifting the soft palate for clear and full sound. Can you tell me something about this? Subia, I don't ever direct anyone to manipulate the soft palate because I don't want to introduce added tension, which is usually what will happen since I can't really describe to you how to lift the soft palate. And so many, even if I could describe to you what applies to you may not apply to my next student, to the next student, and so forth. But the exercises that I give you causes the things to happen in our voices that we're trying to have happen. So my question to you would be, you're asking for a clear and full sound. Um, I would, if someone said, I want a clear and full sound, I don't know that I would begin with the soft palate because a clear sound and full sound also is related to the position of the larynx and whether the vocal cords are coming together completely. In your case, Subia, the vocal cords, as you know, you've been working on trying to get them to adduct, to come together more firmly. And that's where I would begin with a singer who wanted a clear and a full sound. I wouldn't begin with the soft palate per se. Dana and the R&B Rocka always flip into falsetto. My voice starts to get gritty when I try to move up my range. Falsetto keeps it smooth. I hate it. Okay, so there's some of you today that I think this may be of assistance to. The bridge says I'm working on wider vowels. If I cannot keep the vowel narrow, I flip and also wobble. Yes, good comment. Altu, maybe we can get to that. That's an interesting part of this discussion that I wasn't planning on including. Maybe I can come back to that. Subia, don't apologize. It's this is a very common thing that a lot of teachers out there will tell their students to raise the palate, hoping that that's going to solve all the problems. Altu says, also when I try to add vibrato to notes in the bridge, I lose coordination, may flip also. Yeah. So when we start introducing vibrato, it's different and it feels different, and it can be quite scary because it feels like it's going to break, and sometimes it does. Okay, so let's get right down to the brass tacks here. I want to talk about why it happens. I want to talk about how to stop it from happening, and how to prevent it from happening. So stopping it and preventing it are pretty related, but I never go into a song thinking, gosh, if I flip in the falsetto, what will I do? Because I know how to prevent that from happening. So we want to talk about maybe one aspect of it is what can you do today to try and stop it from happening, but how do we prevent it long term? Whoops, excuse me. I hit the microphone. I don't know if you heard that or not. So let's talk a little bit about, and then I also want to I also want to indicate how can we make it a choice rather than something that has to happen in our voices, because it's not necessarily an evil thing to have to use falsetto periodically, but if you have to do it in falsetto, I think that's where there's a limitation in our voice. We want it to be able to, first of all, I think that once you get to the point where you don't have to do it, then you normally would choose not to use falsetto. But if you are, I want it to be a choice and not something that you absolutely just have to do because that's the only way you can do it. So hi to Punit Kumar. Nice to have you with us today. And Linda says, my voice sounds good when I sing without any musical instrument. When I sing along with my guitar, my voice sucks, and I cannot match the pitch of the guitar. What should I do, sir? Linda, it sounds like you have a pitch issue. And so I can only say that you have to start focusing just exclusively on developing your ability for your ear to match the melody. So I'll just recommend right now, really quickly, I've had a couple students who have found this to be very helpful. They found an app that they can download on their phone. It's in different degrees, I think, so there's a free version of it, and there's a charge for the more advanced version. It's called EROL, EROL, and it's an ear training app. And I don't know these people. I think that they have an interesting app because it will measure your voice against the melody and give you a rating, like you're on pitch 65% of the time and so forth. And then you can kind of gamify it so you can just keep a record of how you progress. And I think that they've indicated to me that it's been helpful for them to develop their ability to hear and match the pitch when they hear their ear with their ear, like the signal from the brain to the vocal cords allows the vocal cords to adjust to that pitch. And so they have some ear training exercises on this app, and I think that's where you have to begin, Punit. There's not anything magical or in a singing technique that is going to help. That's called ear training, is what you need to focus on. So now, yes, nice to have you with us, Punit. And it must be late at night in India right now, like 2:30 in the morning or yeah. So, okay. First of all, why does this flip into falsetto happen? If you tend to pull your chest voice higher, or if the larynx tends to go up when you're singing higher notes, it's very possible that you will crack or break or flip into falsetto. Now, another aspect of that is if the vowel that you're singing splats wide, then that is going to cause a reaction, a chain reaction. The larynx comes up, chest voice gets pulled up because the vowel just splatted or spread, and it's possible then that you're going to break into falsetto. And so if I were to sing, I'm not allowing this transition from chest to head. I'm just pulling my chest voice higher. And it's going to build up enough pressure behind there that all of a sudden the vocal folds, the vocal cords kind of they don't break, but they open more than they were before. Before it's going, and now it's just the very outer edges, and there's a lot of air passing through, and you get a falsetto. So now I'm disconnected. The tone is disconnected. So why did that happen? Well, I was pulling the bottom of the chest voice higher, and I was pulling the chest voice higher and higher, and as I was pulling the chest voice higher, there was no resonance or very little resonance that was shifting up into my head. And as a result, I was just getting this pressure buildup behind the vocal folds until finally they gave out. And that causes that. Sometimes you can even hear it crack or flip. If you go online and search, do this. I did a quick search today. It said police officer singing the national anthem or police officer singing God Bless America at some game. You can hear some. There's a lot of different choices that come up, and you can listen to them. I think you all probably No, oh, Punit says it's 1:38 a.m. in India. Hey, thanks for staying up, Punit. Yeah, man, that's really nice of you to join us. And Subia, I know you're over there too. Thank you, Subia. So thank to all of you who are, should be sleeping and are watching, tuning in. I hope this is of benefit to you. All right, so pulling the chest voice higher. When the larynx comes up, ah, ah, if I raise my larynx, listen what happens. Ah, 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 ah. So when I raise my larynx, the vocal cords also do that little separation. And so now instead of having the full depth of the vocal cord participating, now it's just the outer, a very upper layer of it, and just barely touching, and a lot of air is escaping. And so you get that breathy, airy sound. And I think it was my friend from, was it Dana that said, I know it's Dana or Dana, but it looks like you can correct me, Dana. But was it you that said, yeah, you always flip in the falsetto when you move to the top of your range, and falsetto does smooth it out because, well, I don't really know why it smooths it out, but it does. But there are other ways to do that, Dana, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Okay, Subi asked, does wider vowels help in not flipping into falsetto? No, a wider vowel is more challenging. It can actually make it easier to break into falsetto. And so if I were to say, ooh, ah, and went to ah, ooh, ooh, ah, it's very easy for my voice to go into a falsetto in that way. Now, there are ways to hold a more open vowel in. That's quite advanced. So it's possible to happen, but going from a narrow vowel to a wide open vowel sometimes will cause that flip, that break. Subi asked the question, what's an open vowel and what's a closed vowel, or a wide vowel versus a narrow vowel? So ah and ah and eh, those are very open, very wide vowels. And oo and e and those are more narrow or closed. Probably the most narrow or closed vowel would be the oo or the e, or the French combination of e, which is, oo on the lips and e inside, e. So those are very closed or narrow vowels. And then the wider, probably the widest would be the ah, and ah. And it kind of depends on, in getting a little more technical, is how much exposure it's the tongue is allowing to the hard palate. And if you say ah, you can really tell how much space there is between the tongue and the top of the roof of the mouth. Ah, even closes a little bit in the back. That is a very open vowel, and it's quite difficult to sing in through the bridge. We'll get to the bridge in a second. Okay, so basically the larynx coming up and the chest voice being pulled higher causes the vocal cords to can cause the vocal cords to have an abrupt change, and that abrupt change is they're doing this in slow motion, of course, and then you see they're kind of like full depth of chord, and then all of a sudden and then it's up here, just to this little area of the chord structure. And when that happens, they're barely touching and lots of air going through. And as Dana said, um, now it's like breathy and airy, no scratch, but it's a real different change in the tone quality, and it's frustrating. It sounds like two different people singing, right? And that's what we don't want. We want to have this nice unified voice. So Dana, did you correct me on your name pronunciation? I don't see it. So let's talk about number two. Let me just take a couple comments here and see. Um, I think I've said hi to most everybody. So sure great to have everyone here today. And Ellie mentioned that her voice cuts off completely on the high notes. So Ellie, that's likely because, again, the larynx is rising, is coming up, and it just tends to choke it off. I've seen Seth Riggs do a demonstration of, it's just as that larynx goes up, you're going into swallowing mode. And so when you put your hand on your Adam's apple and swallow, you can feel the larynx coming up. The epiglottis inside is closing down over the chord structure, and then nothing can get in or out. So no air is escaping, and no fluids can get down through the cords and into your lungs. So it's impossible for us to make any sound when we swallow. If we're going into swallowing mode, everything is just kind of squeezing down. And it's not surprising to have the sound completely close off when that's happening. Subi says, well, we've already talked about that. And Dana, we've talked about we're going to talk more about your voice in falsetto in a second. And okay, so number two here that I want to discuss is how do we stop this? How do we stop this from happening? And maybe I'll just combine number two and number three, since how do we prevent it? It's exactly the same thing, except preventing it, we do it beforehand, and we train ourselves. How do you stop it from happening in a song today? Um, it I can give you three ways, but maybe the fastest way to fix today is to look at the word right before, or maybe the note in the song, or the word in the song just before you crack, and see if it's a more open vowel, like ah, or ah, or eh, or a. Any of these more open vowels, and if they are, and they're in your bridge, your first bridge, which for the guys, E, F, F sharp above middle C, ladies A, B flat B, and C, high C, that's the C above middle C. That's your area of your first bridge. If those notes are in that bridge or close to it, just before it, or maybe a note or two above that, if their notes are there, and then you have a vowel or word with a wide, let's just say you're singing the word la, of, very common to sing, and you're singing on in or around the bridge, it's very possible that you might have difficulty either pulling the chest voice up and then have it break as a result of or any other word with a more open vowel, and you might find yourself in trouble. So the first thing you could do that maybe would prevent that from happening is to narrow the vowel. And I have a whole series of videos that are all about narrowing the vowel. So today, just so you know, that in the description of the video that we're watching today, there's a free PDF you can download, and it's called the seven. It's the cheat video. So it takes you to seven videos that are about singing great high notes, and inside at least one of there's five that are dedicated to singing high notes. One of those five has information about narrowing the vowel. Okay, so I would say the best thing, the easiest, fastest way to address narrowing vowels is just to direct you to that PDF and check out those videos. Here's the other thing. We talk about, well, okay, so narrowing a vowel, that's how you prevent it. Another way of preventing it is having the larynx stay down. So that means we don't want to pull the chest voice high, and we don't want to elevate the larynx. Well, how do we do that? I'll talk about that in a second. And then the vocal cords have to stay in their coordination so that we don't get this sudden loss of depth of chord, and so now it's just, you know, in that falsetto mode. So how do we prevent that? Well, if the larynx comes up, if we're pulling the chest voice higher and higher and building that pressure behind it, then we're, you know, that's what causes it, so we have to prevent that from happening. All right, so that takes me to how do we prevent it? What do we do to go into preventative mode so that we don't even have to talk about this? It just doesn't happen to you. It's always going to be helpful to have the resources to narrow the vowel. That's always going to be happening. Even if you learn this next thing, you've got to learn how to bridge. You have to learn to go from your chest voice into your head voice. So you have to go through this middle area here. For the ladies, you have to go through that A, B flat, B, and C sharp area above middle C. That's the starting at the A4. Men, starting at the E4, E, F, F sharp. We have to be able to go through those areas of our voice smoothly. That area sometimes is called the passaggio. We call it a bridge. So that bridge, that passageway, the passageway from chest into head is possible. Now, I didn't realize that myself until I was older. Until I was 43 years old, I thought the E was the end of my voice. For many ladies, maybe you just think that you just simply have to break when you get to those areas of your voice. It is not so. You don't have to break. There are other choices you can make, and that's what I'm talking about now, and that is bridging. So let me just give you an illustration here of this bridging process. If I said, for the guys, starting at the B below middle C to the F sharp takes you right through your first bridge. I'm just going to show you really quickly exercises that are going to help you keep the larynx down and the vocal cords appropriately adducted so that you are able to transition from chest to head without it flipping into falsetto. The first one is, and ladies, it's the same thing for you, except it starts at the A, or starts, I would start you like at the, let me see. Start you at the F sharp. Men down here, that's called the bubble lips, and that helps keep the larynx down while you're balancing the air with the vocal cords as the air is passing through. So your voice is getting in the balance. It helps you feel the transition and the adjustment in their vocal cords as you go through the bridge. Ladies, as you're doing that exercise, make sure that you're holding firm, that the vocal cords don't just flip. And I've got to tell you that sometimes they do, because you're so used to letting them just flip or break into falsetto. But if you could add just kind of a little bit of a duh feeling, and insist on not letting it go into falsetto. So I would take a low breath and pull my tummy in a little bit to help that and keep a little bit of a duh, a little bit of a exaggerated sound where you might be a cartoon character that sound kind of like a little a dopey sound, or that's what we have to learn to do. That's part of that bridging process. Now I'm going to tell you again, in that PDF down below, there are two videos that I think are the best in all 300 of my videos that will talk and teach what the bridge is and give you exercises for bridging. Guys, come back down here, same thing. You can put that little dopey sound or tongue trill. The bubble lips keep that larynx settled down, and that helps us get away from pulling the chest voice up. However, we don't have any songs, do we, with those lyrics? So we've got to learn to do it with words, and so another way of doing it would be to say that same kind of little dopey sound, only with the gee. Now you can hear that it goes a little bit hooty. I'm going right through the bridge. I'm allowing this resonance to shift from my chest into my head without breaking. That's not happening, and the vocal cords are staying together as I go through that bridge. For the ladies, the same thing. Now that's my head voice. Might sound like falsetto. It's not. So, Dan, if you're still here, I want to revisit something you said or you asked about, and that is I always flip in the falsetto. My voice starts to get gritty. So that gritty sound, I have found, Janet, I can usually eliminate that from my voice or from my student's voice by doing this gee, gee, gee. So you might want to start here. Gee, 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 gee. Now you can hear that it's going a little bit hollow sounding or hooty sounding, not gee, 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 gee. You got to start it in chest and then let it transition. Or you could try it on goo. Goo, 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 goo. For the ladies. For the guys, the same thing. Goo, 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 goo. Again, these exercises are available in the videos that you can. These are the PDF down below has links to all these, to like 7 videos about singing really great high notes, and then there's 2 videos exclusively about bridging, and there's a couple there on confidence too. Okay, now, all right, let me see if there's some other comments here. So, hey, Mindy, nice to see you. See you later today. I would never crack. I would just really get squeezed, super uncomfortable, and and my veins, my neck popping out. Yes, you know, and that's kind of a. I think guys and girls will do that, but for and again, if you like searched on YouTube for some of these, you know, voice cracks, you can hear guys are just holding on for dear life, and all of a sudden it cracks for whatever reason. And I saw an interview with Pavarotti who he said he cracked one time, and he got booed. And I don't know if he was sick or what was happening, but you know, How can you, you're professional, and I know Mindy, you're a professional. You're singing at weddings and and bar mitzvahs and other events. What do? You got an important gig and you're sick, you know? So there's that's an issue we haven't discussed here, but there are some times when the vocal cords are swollen and puffy. So I had one of my teachers, wonderful man named Dean Kalin, who helped me so much through the years. He said, the only good thing about being sick is you have to be pretty much perfect with your technique. Because if you're careful and perfect with your technique, you can get through it without having a catastrophic event, a catastrophe, having singing along a song and then having it break because of illness. But going back to Mindy's comment, we um, we guys will tend to power through it and just not allow this break. And so for us guys, let me revisit. I haven't described this one yet, but if we take a run at it, sometimes we can sing those higher notes in exercises without building up so much pressure. So I might take a narrower vowel like ooh, or maybe on a goo. Goo, 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 goo. Now, if I said goo, 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 then I would be defeating the purpose of that. So we want to allow that to go a little bit on the hollow hooty side. Goo, 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 or gee, 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 gee. Dana asks, is the hooty sound difficult for anyone else? I'm still feeling grit. When I don't hear grit, it still sounds like falsetto. Now, let me just have all of you can do this. If you put your hand here, for the ladies, you're going to have to put your press your finger into your neck and kind of trace it down to that first bump. That's the top of the larynx. Us guys, it's our Adam's apple sticks way out. Put your hand there and say, duh. It probably didn't move. Now say the same thing with the dopey sound. Say, duh, duh. That's different than duh, duh. If I say duh, my larynx stays there. If I say duh, like I'm making fun of somebody, duh, which I would never do, but I might I might, depending on who. Duh. You can feel the larynx drop. Duh. Now, what we want to do is use that same coordination of the larynx dropping. So what's happening is there's muscles down below with the duh that are activated that pull the larynx down. Now, this is a temporary thing. You don't want to sing with this, but it's a temporary exercise that you can do to connect, to prevent the flip, to prevent the breaks and flips into falsetto. So going back to in the ladies scale, if I said duh, it's pretty hard to sing an exercise with duh, duh, duh. So do it with gee. Gee, 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 gee. The other thing that might help then is to say ooh, ooh, but now say gee, but keep the ooh on your lips. So gee, 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 gee. Do it a little bit softer than I'm demonstrating here. And for me, I have to go like really dopey on the way down. Now you can hear me. I've got scratch in my voice right now. I'm kind of fighting some reflux. But if I go dopey, I can almost get rid of that. It's going hollow hooty. It's like a yawning feeling. Oh, oh. You yawn, the larynx really drops too. So there's just some ways to look at that that will get that larynx down. And getting the larynx down, I've never had a situation where if I got my students' larynx down, that gritty, scratchy sound didn't disappear. Now, well, then what do we do about singing a song? Well, once you get that in the exercise, then and it might take a little while to find that. Then you can apply it in a song. So you might you apply it put it right into the song and keep that dopey sound going. Do it on a gee or a goo, 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 and it will do the same thing. And then go back to the words and see if it will do dopey word, do that hooty dopey words, and then gradually go more and more normal. Now you might find, Dana, that you are singing. That really helps. Good. You might find, Dana, that you're singing with a high larynx. You might find that you might have to sing with that dopey sound a little bit to kind of get that larynx to settle down. I did that for a long time, and my larynx over the years has done a lot better. It's dropped, and I can hear it in my voice. Right now, with this reflux, it's not quite as, you can't hear it quite as well. Okay, so we're getting close to having to wrap this up. Doggone it. Let me make sure here that I've kind of covered things that will help. Oh, I haven't talked about the nay, nay, nay. It's another exercise, that may be of help to all of us periodically, and that is this little exercise here. Nay, 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 nay. I just put a little bit of that exaggerated sound on a nay, nay, nay. It's not a normal nay, 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 but it's nay, 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 nay. So that's in the ladies' register. Sometimes falsetto ladies, mainly, well, no, I've heard some guys do this too. Once they get to a certain point, they just let go. They let go of their voice and it goes into falsetto. In this case, this would be a very useful exercise because we want to keep the vocal cords. We want to keep the vocal cords like doing this and not going like this. So that nay, 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 nay is going to be a little bit deeper into the chords. It's not a falsetto. Nay, 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 nay. And once I get that to stay connected now, and not falsetto, with those exercises with that nay, 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 nay. This is going to help keep the vocal cords more adducted, so we're getting deeper into the chord structure. And it's not in falsetto. It's not though. Nay, nay. It's not the full depth of it's not the full weight of the chords. Right now, we're just trying to re-establish this tone that many singers will just let go when they feel that pressure. And if they just let go, it's very, very challenging to break that habit. And this nay, nay, nay will help reestablish the tonal connection so that you don't have that disconnect. And so that's another way of prevention. And then as we did with the other exercise, you would apply that in the song. Nay, 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 Now, on all of this little neigh, exaggerated neigh, the exaggerated hooty kind of dopey sound, we discontinue that once the tone is, you've reestablished the connected tone, because we don't want to have to rely on this, because it's not your speech level. You don't talk like that, so why would you sing that way? You don't talk that way. We don't want to sing that way either. And so once you get that established and you're able to prevent that flip into falsetto with these exercises, then we want to be able to just sing without having the larynx high or the larynx pushed down. Okay, so it's let me just try and try to look at a couple of these questions here if I can, and we'll try and finish this up in the next couple minutes. Subi says, does tongue root tension raise the larynx? Yes, yeah, yeah. Any kind of tension, Subia, any kind of tension. It's really hard like just to have isolated tension, just tension here, but not over here. It seems to like kind of become systemic and everything starts to get tight. When I sing wider vowels and high notes, but not flip into falsetto often, maybe because my chords are not abducted. Um, Very possibly, Subia, uh, if the vocal cords are not firmly adducted, you don't feel the bridge too much. Enough air is escaping. There's not a real buildup like the comment above, where it's getting really squeezed and really tight, and the vocal cords are coming together really firmly, and there's blood vessels showing. That's when you really are fighting that bridge. But if the chord structure is not coming together, then too much air, you don't feel it. You don't feel it that much. And so the wider a vowel doesn't cause as much of a problem. But, but there are other problems going on, right? The bridge says five-tone scale gets harder when notes start to lie in the bridge area. Is it because we need finer adjustments when the intervals are smaller? Yeah, Altu, those when the interval is just a half step or a whole step in between tone, you can't escape. There's no escape. You can't cheat your way through. You can't fake your way through. You got to face it. It's pretty challenging. And so you're right. That's a little bit more challenging because the intervals demands of that fine adjustment. The other ones are challenging for their own reasons, but you've hit it right on the head. Abby, I'm sorry, I can't comment on Mitch Grassi. I've heard pentatonics, but I'm not sure which one he is. Sorry. Okay, Dana, who just sound difficult for everyone? Feeling the grit. Okay, I think we've covered that part. Okay. Hey, the unknown commentator. Nice to have you here. The Brit says, how do we know when to quit temporary sounds? Well, if you're studying on your own, once you get your connected tone quality from chest to head and back, you should probably discontinue it. If you have to rely on it, then you're going to be singing with a high larynx or with an imposed larynx, imposed down. So you should probably, if you're studying with a teacher, then you may revisit those things periodically where it's helpful. But again, the idea is not to have to rely on those eventually. We don't want them coming through in our song. We want to be where we talk, where we speak naturally. Ink says, is it true that tenor's passaggio is at the A4? No, the tenor's passaggio is the same as the baritone, and that's the E above middle C. Oh my gosh, this would be amazing. You guys are having a nice conversation. Hopefully, it's being helpful. Um, okay, Majesty Joshua, nice to have you with us. Martin, hi. Didn't say hi to you guys. Nice to have you here, Martin. Love the nays. They really helped me to get into my head voice. Awesome. Okay, last comment here, Janet 2A. Hi, Janet. So your test on your website for the voice type or tendency uses ah. Yes, Janet, it exposes right away our troubles. It exposes immediately our problems. You've caught me, but that's exactly right. It's very, very quick way to diagnose the voice. Because so I can say, let me tell you, I wasn't able to do that the first time I did the ah. So this is to show what will happen with the wide vowel. This is a great video. I'm learning. Yes. I don't see another Jen in the chat. I don't see another Jen. I don't think so, Jen. I think you're the exclusive today. So thank you very much, you guys. Love and appreciate you all, and I hope that this has been of benefit to you. We've talked about these three different things or different points to how do we stop it, and why is it caused, how do we stop it, and what do we do about it, how do we prevent it. When you make it, if you can do all these things, then you can choose if you want to flip in the falsetto or not. My guess is that many of you will decide not to, since you don't have to. But my goal is to make it a choice. Ellie asked about overadduction. Ellie, do it softer on a narrower vowel for practice. Do it on oo or e, and again try that imposed larynx exercise and apply that to your song at a softer volume and see what happens. So Dana asked, will these exercises help with power and volume? Dana, they will lead to power and volume, yes. At first, it will feel, in many cases, to us guys, it even feels like falsetto. It's so light. But it will lead to strength and power in your voice. You see, because now it's just the larynx just the vocal cords are doing the job. And we don't have these extrinsic muscles that are squeezing and pulling up and so forth. So these exercises will lead to isolating just the cords, the vocal cords, so they can do the job themselves. When they are doing it themselves, then that's when the real power becomes available to us. So thanks, everybody. All the best to you. Have a great week. And this is Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live. You can sing higher with beauty, confidence, and power. And I'll see you inside the next video. Thanks.